For this video, we're going full on Castaway. I'm gonna give you my 5 desert island records. So the criteria for my desert island records is that it has to be a record that I won't get tired of. Now, there are records that I consider to be higher on my list of favorite records than some of these records, but when I really think about it or thought about it, these are the albums that I think I could listen to every day or every other day while trapped on an island and not be bored of them. They constantly kind of give me something else to focus on. They're pretty diverse. They're pretty thick as far as the composition and all of that stuff. Basically, they're just my favorite albums that don't get old to me. They're the albums that I know I could stand listening to for years on end. Alright, so first up on my list of desert island records is this absolutely amazing thrash classic, Megadeth's Rust in Peace. This to me is an album that is more diverse than a lot of the thrash albums. There's a lot more going on here than you would catch on an earlier Metallica album or, an Exodus or Anthrax album from that time frame. There's just kind of a little bit more depth on this album as far as I'm concerned, so I could totally see myself listening to it on a highly regular basis for a very long time before I got sick of it. I mean, I've been listening to it for 22 years and I'm still not sick of it. So if that's any indication, then it definitely deserves to be on this list. I mean, this album is amazing from front to back. There aren't any bad songs on it. My favorite songs are Take No Prisoners, Krisha, Tornado of Souls. I think a lot of these songs are actually just fan favorites, so it's not necessarily like I'm picking deep cuts or anything like that, but this entire album is essentially a fan favorite, so there are very few, if any, deep cuts on this album. One song that I think doesn't get talked about enough is Five Magics. That song starts off so slow, but when it does kick in, and even in the beginning, there's just like this weight to it. It's very heavy. The subject matter is kind of old school Dave, which is amazing to me back when he was writing stuff like the Peace Cells album and things like that. Five Magics is just a great song. It's very heavy. It's very, I guess the best way to describe it is just it's very old school Dave. So there it is. Next up, I've got Avenged Sevenfold with their album The Stage. I've been a fan of Avenged Sevenfold since 2003, my freshman year in high school, and I grew with the band as far as musical tastes are concerned, even though at times I was actually a couple steps behind, meaning that there are a couple albums, this one included really, that took me a bit longer to get into and appreciate than others. So this is the most recent Avenged Sevenfold album. The reason why I picked it is because this album is all over the place in the best way possible. It's highly experimental. It's very progressive. It's very kind of out of left field. It's just a very experimental album for the band. They went all over the place. There's some crushing heavy parts on here. There's some beautiful vocal parts. There's great guitar work. The drum work on this album is probably the biggest reason why I put it on this list. This album and Brooks Vackerman's work on this album is phenomenal. I mean, Brooks hits you in the face from the very beginning of the album. Listen to the drums when they kick in on the stage, the very first song on side A. Listen to the way that the drums introduce themselves on the album, and that feeling that you get when you hear those drums doing that double bass rhythm is exactly how the drum parts on the rest of the album make you feel. The drums aren't the only thing that shine, though. This album has tons of great vocal work, guitar work. This album is dense, is what I'm saying. There are so many different feels, so many different tempos, so many different styles on this album that I don't think it would be very easy to get sick of this, even if I were trapped on an island with this and 4 other records and only had that to listen to. Next, we've got Tool with Lateralus. To me, if I was stuck on an island, this album would be my church. This album is the closest thing other than maybe Tom Petty that I get to spiritual. So when I put this on, it's kind of meditation time. It's relaxing to me. It's just like the Avenged Sevenfold album. It's very dense, as is every Tool release, but there's just so many great little things hiding on every Tool album for you to find on your 200th listen, 300th listen. Like, that's how dense Tool's music tends to be, and that's kind of my criteria for this video. It has to be an album that I can put on and hopefully find something new that I can appreciate and love, or put on and just really get sucked into it and, you know, kind of be meditative, if that makes sense to you. So the first time I heard Tool was when I was 8 or 9. I was staying up late and I was watching, I think, MTV2, and the video for Schism came on and scared the shit out of me. And then I watched it again. I kind of started checking Tool out because I guess it was, you know, even though it was scary, it was something that drew me to it. I watched the video for Sober. That scared the shit out of me too. It's just, you know, you have to kind of get used to the artistic nature of the band and their penchant for having kind of weird and off-putting or semi-grotesque artwork. It's just kind of part of their artistic thing, but it again just kind of deepens the album as far as being able to consume it for long periods of time. You know, it adds another element to it. The physical art, the physical format, everything like that with Tool is definitely the way to go. In this case, if I had to bring just vinyl records, honestly, this might not have made the list. It is the only official pressing of this album, and it is a picture disc, and I don't like the way picture discs sound. I don't remember this one sounding particularly bad. I don't know if you can see that there. I don't remember this one sounding particularly bad, but it's still a picture disc. Next up, we've got the Holy Triumvirate, Rush with Presto. Rush, again, is a band that means a ton to me and means a ton to my family, actually. I had heard Rush pretty much my whole life. They were one of my dad's favorite bands. Just because my dad listened to them as much as he did, I kind of purposely didn't listen to them for, you know, however long that period in your childhood lasts. But when I finally did start listening to Rush, this album was the first one that I really gravitated towards, and to this day, it's still my favorite Rush album. One of my favorite things about this album is the opening of Show Don't Tell. The opening for that song is just ridiculous. The drum part is so simple but so perfect. There's a part in there where he hit a crash cymbal in a dead space in a rest, and just the timing of it and the feel that he does it with, it really gets me going for whatever reason. When I was younger and in a band, I had just listened to this album before a band practice, and I was so jazzed by that little drum part at the beginning of Show Don't Tell that every time we reached a point in a song where there was a beat of rest, I was throwing that crash in there, and everybody in the practice space was just laughing. So yeah, just the heaviness and the open space that's in the beginning of Show Don't Tell is one of my favorite things about the album. The entire song is, of course, great. So this is one of those more moody Rush albums, a little bit softer spoken at parts, although Show Don't Tell is very heavy. But the shining moments on this album are often the quieter moments, the more emotional moments, at least for me. I love the song Presto. I love the song Scars. I love the song The Past. Those are all kind of, you know, more emo or emotional songs. And that is the era or the type of Rush songs that I enjoy the most. There's just no way I could have made this list without putting an Rush album on it. I mean, really, I could have done a list of my 5 Desert Island Rush albums, because there are definitely 5, if not 10, Rush albums that I could listen to on repeat nonstop and never get sick of them. All right, last up on my list, we've got Coheed and Cambria with their album No World for Tomorrow. This album is huge to me. Coheed is my favorite band of all time. you know, above Metallica and everybody else. That could, of course, change in the future. It's changed many times over my lifetime. But for the past 10 years, this has been my favorite band. The significance of this particular album is that this album is the album that got me into the band. I had heard the band a few times before when I was a freshman, sophomore in high school, when they had just Second Stage Turbine Blade and In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3 out. And then when they put out Good Apollo 4, and they had that huge hit with Welcome Home, I of course had heard that as well. But honestly, none of that really made me a big fan of the band. I didn't seek them out after any of those or experiencing any of those songs. I just wasn't a big fan for whatever reason. And then this album came out, and I was riding around with a friend, and he was playing the music, and he put on a song called The Running Free, and when I heard it, I instantly became a fan. It's a pretty poppy Coheed song, although they do poppy songs very, very, very well. But for whatever reason, it grabbed me. And from that moment on, they were one of my favorites in the beginning and then became my favorite band of all time shortly after. So of course, I've got to have them on the desert island with me. And because this album is one of the more diverse, and also it has that connection with me because it's the first Coheed album that I like, it has to be on my list. It has to be on the island with me. I just showed my Presto album, and I think it's kind of fitting because there's a point on this album, on the opening track, which is the title track, where Claudio, the singer, hits a high note and sounds exactly like Geddy Lee does hitting those notes. It's just a very interesting thing. So if you've never heard this album before, check out that opening song, No World for Tomorrow. Check out Justice and Murder, check out The Running Free, check out Feathers, this whole album is gold to me, and I'm sure if you like Rush, if you like prog rock, if you like post-hardcore, if you like epic, if you like concept albums, that kind of stuff, this album is something you would probably be into. But this is a Desert Island list, not a review, so I'll keep it short. Basically, this band has to be on the island with me. I don't think I would live very long on that island if I didn't have a Coheed record to curl up with. So that's it. There it is, everybody. That is my list of desert island records. I did 5. I could have easily done 20 or 100. I wanted to make it a little difficult on myself and keep it to 5. I picked 5 that meant the most to me. I know I've seen a lot of other videos in the VC where people do this list, and I always love watching those. It's very interesting to see what people consider an album that might be the last album or one of the last albums that they could ever hear, and see what people really feel that deeply about. It's very interesting to me. So that's my list. I'm sure you could glean things from my list and my taste in music, which is the reason why I think these videos are as popular as they tend to be. So I look forward to seeing more of your guys' videos. I've seen a lot already, but if you happen to see this video and you've made one, drop the link in the comments and I'll be sure to watch it. If you want to make a video and you haven't yet, this is your cue to make a video about this, so jump in on it if you want. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.